Somebody gave him a gun. He stole the gun. They was looking for him and a pair of sneakers. And he left that morning from stealing that from them. And that's how he got the gun. And he bring it out to that morning. And Robert told him, Jojo was up top. You better go get my money. He know I know the story. And I think God meant for me to be here because I almost died back in June. And I think he meant for me to be here to tell the story. And my brother gave him somewhere to stay. That's how you was in my house. You wasn't just chilling with my brother. You forgot that he slept in my house. And you wear his jeans when you went upstairs to take a shower. And you robbed him. That's what you did. You robbed him. And then when you seen it was Tiffany Brown, you got real jealous because that was your girlfriend. And you told him you was going to kill him. I was right there on the porch. Did you forget? I'm here. I'm right here. The witness. And he did not deserve to do that. I can see the way he looked in the air just now, how long it took me to get out of the phone, rolling his eyes. He knew I was coming to say something.
We are about to see a parole hearing out of the state of Connecticut for a man who was sentenced 30 years for killing their loved one. Now, he has 5 years left riding on that sentence. So this parole hearing, it means 5 years to him. Now, he comes in trying to be on his best behavior, but the victims, they seem to get under his skin. And there is one thing that this man and his attorney have to make sure does not happen, and that is for him to react, for him to give the wrong message to the parole board. And I got to tell you, he just can't keep it together. It is one of the more interesting hearings that we have seen in terms of, I think, the victims, one of them who was formerly incarcerated with him, do everything they can to get under his skin and have him blow up a parole hearing. Now, he gives a long opening statement. It is quite brutal to listen through. So if you want to skip ahead to the 20-minute mark, you might want to do that, or at least put it on 2x speed. I'm not sure how many soups or honey buns he paid for the jailhouse lawyer to write the opening statement, but it seems to me like he's reading it for the first time. Anyways, with that, let's jump in.
My name is Jamar Sullivan. My inmate number is 296869.
Thank you. This is a public hearing in accordance with Chapter 14, Freedom of Information Act, Connecticut General Statute 1-200, which applies to this procedure. Mr. Sullivan, if you have any questions concerning the above, please bring your questions to the attention of the panel at this time. Again, this is the public hearing. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any questions, and are you willing to proceed?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. As previously stated, this is a Public Act 23-169 hearing. It's being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Jamar Sullivan, inmate number 2696869. Mr. Sullivan is serving a sentence of 28 years flat with no probation to follow for manslaughter in the first degree, firearm, and assault third. There is victim input in this case. There is also an offender accountability plan in place that has been reviewed and shows that he has completed the following programs, which includes interactive skill building, administrative segregation programming, passive recreation, anger management, alternatives to violence, good intentions, bad choices, voices, thresholds, tier 4, and intensive aftercare. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the RT falls within the moderate range risk for recidivism. Mr. Sullivan, this is now your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole, and you may begin.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I am extremely apologetic for my actions. I knew Mr. Benton and his family, which make my remorse and regret even deeper. The words Mr. Benton's family said at the sentencing, the look on their faces, and the pain in their voices have stayed with me. They didn't deserve to have someone they loved taken from them in the tragic way that they had to endure. I'm sorry for the opportunities I stole from them when I regretfully took his life. They may never forgive me, and I understand and respect that. I wholeheartedly apologize to them, even if they don't see me as worthy of their forgiveness. I pray and they forgive me for their own sakes. I hope they can in some way be unburdened from the life-changing trauma I am responsible for creating. I am sorry. If I could rewind time and take back the harm I have done, I would. I was an 18-year-old boy when I committed this crime. I had barely lived but at this young age, I took a life. That day plays back in my head over and over again. There have been times, especially early in my incarceration, that I hated myself for what I have done. I constantly ask myself how I got to that place at such a young age so early in life. Until I was 10 years old, my life was normal. I loved school, engaging in the process of learning. My family was heavily involved in the church. We were constantly there for worship services, birthdays, weddings, holidays. Chaos struck in what felt like overnight. By the time I was 11 years old, my mother was addicted to crack cocaine. Once that happened, my security, safety, and sense of normalcy disappeared. I never really recovered from that trauma until years into my incarceration. In the summer of 1997, when I was 12, my mother went to rehab. My brother and I went to live with my grandmother, who at the time was a Bridgeport police officer. The absence of my mother was a struggle for me. The whole process of moving and having questions no one could answer put me in a constant state of stress. I did not know how to cope with the uncertainty or pain. I was too young to understand how to process my emotions in a healthy way. My father had 11 other children, and my grandmother's house was always full. I had good times, but I also went through anguish. There were times where even in a full house, I felt alone and abandoned. My grandmother tried her best to keep the family unit intact, but my 11 other siblings, plus my 4 brothers and myself, left her extremely overwhelmed. Eventually, I was placed in foster care. I was once again left feeling lost, confused, and disconnected from family. I began to question my self-worth. I was depressed and helpless. I went from feeling loved and being connected to my family before my mother addiction to feeling useless and broken. My mother completed rehab and got my siblings and I out of foster care. We moved to East Hartford where we had no family. I had unanswered questions and unresolved wounds and no ability to respond to my trauma in a productive way. I also felt that I did not have the kind of support system I desperately needed. Unfortunately, like many young people who experience instability within their families, I looked for connections in unhealthy ways. I tried to find healing in the midst of other broken youth. I started self-medicating with marijuana at 12, and by the age of 14, I was addicted to PCP. My pain and addictions were so deep and significant, I began to lash out and rebel. At 14, I left my mother's home and went down a path of destruction. Once I left my mother's home, I started fighting, selling drugs, having sex, and hanging out with older kids. I was spinning out of control more and more every day. I was lost and convinced that the lifestyle I was engaged in was normal. I was around other people who lived that way, so I felt like for us, that was all life would ever be. I never imagined how dark things would get. I was unaware how my choices impacted other people. I realized how much damage I caused and how misguided I was. I remember I have remorse for the choices I've made. I am sorry for being a hurt person that hurt people. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I regret that I could not navigate my pain without harming others. As someone who is more mature in a season of evolution, I realize self-love is the key that opens the door to change. Anyone who loved themselves could never take a life. When we value our own lives in a truly meaningful way, we cherish life, period, and respect the lives of those around us. During my 21 years of incarceration, I can admit I have made poor decisions. I own every single one of them, but more importantly, I have learned from every single one of them. I take these lessons with me and I strive to improve. For example, my last ticket 2 years ago involved an officer was a situation that in its totality could have been avoided. If my emotions and behavior was intact, I failed myself and my family by not making the right decisions, and that mishap cost me commutation and put me in a state of depression and at the same time a state of rehabilitation. My mother relayed to me what was said by the board, and I made the decision to take the panel's advice. The next day, I spoke to Captain Warwick about being placed in the Tier 4 program and signing up for Alternative to Violence for the second time. Captain Warwick told me that he would help me and for me to write him a request. The next week, Ms. Cease, who at the time was running the Tier 4 program, and Captain Warwick came to my cell and told me that I was placed on the Tier 4 waiting list and it would take 6 to 8 months to be placed in the program. And the decision that I make from here on out will determine how serious I am about the program and receiving the help and doing the work. I stayed on the right track and got additional help from the Deputy Warden Moore and Counselor King to get me into the CLIck program and alternative violence program. I have a sincere desire to grow through the situations I've been through. My progress has been a process, and I am the first to confess the journey has had its bumps. These potholes on my road to rehabilitation are not indicative of a lack of remorse. I am truly sorry for the harm I have caused Mr. Benton's family. I don't expect the board to overlook the fact I have 16 tickets, nor am I asking you to. I am asking that you view me with a wide lens and consider all of me and not just the worst of me. I have fallen short of my own standards more than once. I have never stopped trying to better myself. I constantly take programs, reflect, and set new goals and take accountability. I know that I can't change what I refuse to acknowledge. I will never give up on growth, and I will continue to stand on accountability and not sit on excuses. My grandfather was 82 years old when he passed away. He had 11 children, 25 grandchildren, and 11 great grandkids. I am the only one who was incarcerated. I am motivated to reconnect with my family and make them proud. I have also accomplished things and learned lessons I am extremely proud of. I have my GED and I am a certified nurse's aide. I am also a certified substance abuse recovery coach. Each of these accomplishments were fueled by my desire to be of service. My remorse about having taken a life inspired me to want to improve lives. As a CNA, I have taken care of the sick and dying out of remorse and compassion. I look forward to using my C-CAR recovery coach certification to help people fight the disease of addiction. I truly want to be a vehicle of change and a light in my community. I am sorry for being a negative force in the past. I have also taken several programs, including Threshold, Christian Living, Decision Making, Life Skills, Tier 4, anger management, alternative to violence, project, and basic. I chose to take anger management twice to improve my ability to cope with anger. I also enrolled in alternative to violence project advance for the same reason. I was a mentor in the Threshold program. I also have certifications from Stratford Career Institute. While incarcerated, I have held jobs long periods of time. I was a commissary worker for 5 years in McDougal, 2 years in Cheshire, and I was a CNA for 3 years while at Corrigan. One of the most transformative programs I have taken was Tier 4. This program showed me how important people, places, and things are. I also learned about accountability and the value of having people in my corner who want what's best for me. Tier 4 has also provided me with crucial resources, including a recovery coach I will work with if I'm released. I have reached out to the mayor's initiative. Reentry affairs will help me acquire my basic needs. I have also reached out to Masonic Care to create relationships that may lead to employment as a CNA. Tracy Bernardi, a reentry specialist, has also expressed a willingness to help me establish firm footing if I am released. I am also in communication with Just Live LLC, an organization that emphasizes therapeutic outreach services. If I am granted parole, I plan on getting my CNA license reinstated and taking a phlebotomy training course at Valley Medical. I can get my CNA license reinstated at Capital Community College, Manchester Community College, Gateway, and Lord Chamberlain's Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. On 9/26/24, I was placed on the waiting list for Vocational Village. I believe in obtaining any and all skills that will lead to success. I am passionate about the medical field and substance abuse recovery. I am aware that the ability to pivot is valuable. I want to put as many tools on my tool belt as possible. I signed up for Vocational Village so I can have more options, more skills, and open the doors to opportunity, even if other doors close. I believe those who fail to plan to fail. I have a backup plan if I need one. I have a solid support system for when I go home. I plan on working with a C-Car recovery coach. I also have family members with strong community ties. My friends, family, and network believe in me and are willing to help me navigate my life in the best way possible. I plan to reach out to mental health and addiction resources in the community. I have made contacts with multiple organizations that help the formerly incarcerated. I believe I can have unlimited success outside of prison. Prison is not always the most positive place and presents unique challenges. I have grown and improved tremendously. I have prepared myself for post-incarcerated living. In closing, I would like to apologize again for the harm I have caused. Not a single day goes by that I don't regret the crime I committed. I am sorry for all the suffering I inflicted with my troubled choices. I cannot take back what I have done, no matter how much I wish I could, but I can and will live differently. I want to help and not harm. I look forward to showing others change is possible. I am sorry for who I was then and hope you see who I am today. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan, thank you for your statement. This panel has reviewed your information extensively to include the police report, the PSI that outlines your history, your childhood, the court transcripts, as well as your institutional reports, from disciplinary reports to evaluations from programming and such, with the decision information summary from the parole officer. We're very well versed in your case. We do have some additional questions for you.
Yes,
When we're done
ma'am.
with our questions, we'll turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services for input from the victim's family. Then the state's attorney will have the opportunity to speak, as well as your attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll begin with my colleague, Ms. Berry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Sullivan, I appreciate that opening statement and the time that you took to prepare that. You did a great job delivering it, and I'm glad that you have taken this period of incarceration to work on yourself and try to gain a better understanding of your behaviors and why you behaved in such a manner. This case is very, very serious in that a person died. I heard you express remorse for that decision and for your actions. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. Our records indicate that you had an argument with this victim at some point.
I had this argument with him prior to the event that took place.
Okay. And so the argument was about money,
Yes, ma'am.
and supposedly you stole money from someone, or there was money missing, or
No, I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I ended up going to Bridgeport, Connecticut for the summer.
Yeah.
And when I went there, I was approached by one of my cousins, and my cousin brought me to Mr. Benson's sister house, Monique Benson. And I was in the living room, and she was upstairs with my cousin. I was in their house for like 20 minutes. I got tired of waiting for my cousin to come downstairs, and I left out the house. When I left out the house, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, my other cousin came and got me and told me that a guy wanted to speak to me in building 12. So I went to building 12, and Mr. Bennett, he asked me, he said, "You was in my sister's house?" I said, "Yes." He was like, "I'm missing money out of my pants. Did you take it?" I told Mr. Bennett, I said, "I didn't take your money out your pants." And he was like, "You sure you didn't take my money out my pants?" I said, "I'm positive I didn't take your money out your pants." And he was like, "All right." Like, and that was the gist of that conversation with him.
But this happened on another day.
Yes, this happened. I was only in Bridgeport for like a month. So
Okay.
this happened
Okay,
like,
so let's fast forward. So now you're back in Bridgeport,
yes,
and
ma'am.
it's the day that this offense occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you wind up coming in contact with this victim?
I went to PT Barnum. I was in my cousin's house.
Yeah.
Me and my older cousin, we got into an argument.
You and your older cousin. Who's that?
Yes, ma'am. He's deceased now, Robert Dobson.
Okay. So you got into an argument with Robert.
Yes,
And what
ma'am.
happened?
And I went around the corner, and I was walking up the drive, which they call it in PT.
Yep.
And on the corner, it was Mr. Benton and Tiffany Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got up to Mr. Benton, like before I got to him, I pulled the gun out from around the corner. I was arguing with my cousin, and I had
You were going to shoot your cousin?
No, I wasn't going to shoot him. I pulled the gun out because I was scared of them. So I pulled the gun out, and I went around the corner. I put the gun in my pocket. I walked up the street. When he seen me with the gun already, he was already scared. So I bumped into him. We started tussling.
Why would he let you get that close to him if you had a gun and he saw it?
He was just standing there at the corner. He never left the corner, man.
But how did you bump into him there?
Because he's standing on the corner, and I walked right into Mr. Benton right there. And me and him started tussling. And
why? Why would you tussle? If you guys had already squashed your beef, I'm not understanding. Why would he be, he saw the gun, so that means the gun was out, right?
Yes, ma'am. The gun was out. And when I got up to him, when I got to Mr. Benton, the gun was in my waistband. We started wrestling.
So wait, so when you saw Mr. Benton, he was on the corner and you were a distance away, you had the gun out, and then you put the gun back in your waist and you walked towards the victim?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
When I walked up to Mr. Benton, we got into an argument again, and we started like tussling on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And we both fell to the ground. The gun came out of my waistband, and it went off. And that's when I realized he was shot. I got up.
So I'm just curious to know, first of all, it's a very far-fetched story. And what's confusing to me about your description of what transpired is this all happened at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, ma'am.
You were already arguing with two different people at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Yes, I was.
I'm not, and so what was the purpose of your having the gun on you after the discussion with your cousin?
Well, I had discussion with my cousin because I took some marijuana that I wasn't supposed to take from him. And when I came back to the neighborhood, they were mad that I took the marijuana.
Why were you taking stuff from people that, like, were you just being a menace? That's a long story short?
Man, when I was younger, I was a terrible kid.
Okay.
Like I didn't have no direction. I didn't have nowhere to live. I was going from house to house.
Yeah.
I just was partaking in a lot of negative things that I shouldn't have been taking participation in.
So
and
were you selling drugs in the community?
Yes, ma'am.
And so did you save that money and bought a gun?
I ended up just getting the gun from one of my friends.
Okay.
I didn't
so
buy
have
that.
you ever used that gun or showed it to anybody else?
I had a gun and people knew I had a gun, but yeah, people knew I had a firearm. Yeah.
Okay. So that means, were you telling them or were you showing them that you had the firearm?
Well, yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Like I was telling people I had a firearm and showing them.
Okay.
Like when I was younger, we thought that was cool, like to have a gun and just ignorance.
Okay. So now let's go back. So you were tussling with him, the gun was in your waist, it fell out of your waist, and it shot this victim in the chest, right?
Yes.
Why then was the victim holding on to your leg and yelling that you shot him? Why, if it was an accident, why would he be yelling? And why didn't you stop to render aid?
I did stop to render aid. I was scared. I was trying to get out of there.
All right. And so, but I mean, you were caught almost immediately. I just can't believe that this all happened you were up and at him at 9 o'clock, not going to school, not working, just being a menace in the community. So now let's fast forward. You accept responsibility for your actions. You say, I committed this offense. You're sentenced and all this stuff. Now you're in prison. How would you say that your behavior has been since you've been in that facility?
Oh my God, like my prison, it's been hard. It hasn't been easy for me being in prison. It's been a rough experience.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I know I heard you talk about the 16 disciplinary infractions in your opening statement, and you even said, I'm not going to ask you all to ignore the fact that I received 16 disciplinary infractions for being non-compliant.
Yes, ma'am.
What's concerning about your 16 disciplinary infractions, Mr. Sullivan, is that of those 16, you have 7 that display violence, 2 of which were for assaults, 1 of them resulting in an outside charge, and then you had 5 tickets for fighting.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it shows a continuation of the behavior. Even up until 2022, you were threatening people. Can you explain? And I read your attorney submitted a tremendous amount of information, and I really do appreciate all her efforts. However, you in the explanation, it says, you told this officer, "You don't know me, get away from me before something happens to you." You say you were overwhelmed and you were emotional, but it also says that people had to hold you back from actually trying to get at this officer. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. When I was I got into a whole argument with this officer on August 26, 2022. I was in the day room. He came in there. It was guys gambling loud. He asked everybody to leave. I was leaving the day room. He stopped me. Me and him had words, and I went about it totally wrong.
Okay. I would agree that you went about it totally wrong, but the explanation again was you were waiting. It was almost the anniversary of your incident, and that you were waiting to hear from the sentence about your sentence modification and also your commutation. And so you were on edge. Is that right?
Yeah.
So do you understand, Mr. Sullivan, that in life out here and anywhere, honestly, things can be very challenging. Life doesn't go the way that we plan. We celebrate anniversaries that we really don't want to. Some of them are good anniversaries, some of them are negative, but threatening other people and charging, what would have happened if those people weren't there to hold you back to that officer? Do you realize that you would have accumulated yet another disciplinary infraction for assault, and then you would have also received probably outside charges, just as you did with one of your assault tickets?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me how in that, from the time that you went into the prison, let's say 19 years you had already served. In 19 years, you say, I did all this change work, but then in 2022, you resort back to that same behavior. Explain to us how things could have been different. I'll say that.
Things could have been different if I continued to work on myself. Like from 2020 to 2022, I stopped working on myself. I wasn't really doing too many programs anymore. You know, I wasn't really in communication with my family. I just was in jail, feeling like a loser. Friends, family, people getting married, going on about their lives, and I'm in prison.
What you said that in your opening statement too. That's the same. You hated yourself.
Yeah,
It's the same behavior though. It doesn't show very much change. Like aside from maturation, you're going down the same path. You're making those same poor decisions, and that is problematic for us. While I can appreciate the fact that you haven't had any disciplinary infractions in the past, in almost 2 years now, the fact remains that the violence continued, even up to 21. You fought someone. It says you fought somebody over a seat. What happened? What happened with this outside charge where you beat up this other inmate?
At that time, I was in Corrigan Correctional Institution. I was in Corrigan Correctional Institution for 5 years. I was in that prison for 5 years. I had no disciplinary infractions at all. I went to school to become a CNA. I was working as a CNA. I was basically a model inmate in that period of time. I was coming back from work. I entered my room. A man entered the room behind me, Ronnie Hinton, and he proceeded to ask me about rumors that was going on in the unit about him. I told him that I didn't have nothing to do with those rumors. And when I told him I didn't have nothing to do with those rumors and I wasn't going to relate to him who said them, because I didn't know who said them, period, he punched me in my face and he stabbed me.
And what did you do?
I fought him hard.
And did he get charges for outside charges too?
Yes, he got charged for coming into my room with a knife and cutting me, and I got charged for fighting him off me.
What's his
And
name?
they sent me
Huh?
to North.
What was his name? What, the
Ronnie
offender?
Hinton.
Ronnie Hinton, yeah.
Ronnie Hinton.
So why did, I thought I read that there were 3 of you involved in this and somebody held
My-
somebody back and.
My cellie, I had a cellmate. I was in a room. Ronnie Hinton came in the room, stabbed me, and I was fighting him off. My cellie came in the room and helped me get him off of me. My cellie, Eric Gooden, he saved my life.
Oh, okay. So why did they charge you then? I'm just curious to
What
know.
year
You
was
got-
that?
It was in 2011.
11.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah,
It was
6/14, 2011 is when this fight happened.
Yeah, he doesn't have any.
Yeah.
He didn't get any new charges.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, that's what I'm trying to just figure out how did this all transpire? It's just, it's too much, Mr. Sullivan. Like, I do appreciate the fact that you have really worked on yourself, but you clearly still have a lot more work to do. And then I'm just curious to know, what was the preface of your requesting a sentence modification back in, you asked for a commutation in 22. So when did you apply for a sentence modification?
Same time.
around the same time.
In 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the premise of that request?
For a commutation.
For both, you said you did them at the same time. Did you think your
Probably.
sentence was, go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to get some relief from my sentence. They told me about the juvenile law and that I could place an application for
Mhm.
commutation, and I placed the application for commutation.
Okay, so they told you that, but okay, so what was the sentence? You were trying to get the sentence mod to try to meet the criteria for the juvenile law earlier? Is that what, like, to have your date moved up to be eligible? I'm trying to understand. If you, Attorney Holm, if you would like to chime in, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so he initially applied for a sentence modification based on the relatively new change in the law, right? And he had an attorney to assist him with that. That required given his situation, that required the permission of the state's attorney. They did not agree, so the sentence modification did not move forward.
Okay.
Then around the same time, he had submitted a commutation packet. That packet went before the board. It was obviously very near the incident that he spoke of in 2022, and he was denied on the pre-screen. Shortly after that period in time, or around that period in time, I'm sorry, I probably could just look at my notes, but there was also discussion about this public act, and the juvenile parole being expanded to 18 to 20-year-olds. And there was also the practice in the public defender's office of doing motions to correct a sentence based on youth. So I think he was receiving some advice from the public defender's office around that. And there was a habeas filed, which was withdrawn.
And what information do you have about this outside charge, the assault third? Do you have any information about that?
About what information do I have?
Yes.
The assault
outside.
that he
Yes.
that he received from the 2011 incident.
Yes.
I have the same information that he shared.
All right. All right. So, Mr. Sullivan, now you're sitting before us and you're asking us to be paroled. What do you think the victim's family, the deceased victim's family, is going to say about your request here today and your prior requests?
Oh no, they probably don't want me to be released It's a hard situation, you know, and I don't want people to think that I'm taking this hearing lightly, or I don't understand the pain that I caused. And it's hard. It's hard to sit here in front of you guys and ask to be released and ask to be paroled when I'm in here for taking someone's life. It's hard to even put a number on someone's life. Like,
Right.
what am I asking for? Am I saying like Mr. Benton's life was worth 20 years of me being in prison and all should be done and over with? Like it's hard all around the board.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm sorry for taking Mr. Benton's life. He wasn't a bad person. He wasn't like a violent person. He was a good dude. Like, I talked to him, chat with him, so it's not easy. I'm not saying. When I was young, man, I was a messed up person. There was a lot going on in my life, things that I didn't even understand.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna sit here and say the victim of my crime was a nasty street person and he did deserve everything that happened to him, because he wasn't like that. He was a kind dude. He was nice. He'll give you whatever you needed from him. He was a good person. And so I'm sorry for taking his life. Like, I can't bring him back. And I swear I didn't mean to take this. Every people that's from my area, they know I didn't mean to take Mr. Benton's life. I just was young and dumb, and I shouldn't have had that gun. And he shouldn't have lost his life. Right. So for me to sit here and ask for relief to go home, it's like a double-edged sword. It's sad because I want to go home to my family. I've lost people too, and his family want him there with him. And I'm responsible for him not being there. So it's like, it's still like nobody wins. I still have to go home. I still have to live with the fact that I took someone's life, and I still got to figure out a way to make it right. If not in their eyes, just for like my own peace.
Yeah. But do you think that you have made it right with your behavior there in the facility? Do you think that you've proven that, you know, you can go out into the community and remain at liberty without committing any new offenses based on how you behave there in the facility?
I believe I could go home and do the right thing. I haven't been sitting in prison just not doing anything with myself. I've had mishaps. I have arguments, disagreements. I've done things that I'm not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
From 2006 to 2011, I had no tickets. I was working, doing everything right. Mr. Hinton came in my cell and tried to stab me. I fought to save my life. I never had no tickets with no officers. From 2011 up to 2016, I had no tickets. That was a 5-year span.
But then you went on to get another fighting ticket, then another assault. And I mean, it's just, you'll go without tickets for a little bit of time, and then you incur new ones, and then they're violent. And so us as a panel, as a board, looking at your file in terms of suitability, to make sure we're gauging whether or not there is enough evidence to indicate to us that there is a significant amount of change.
Yes, ma'am.
And just in talking with you here today and listening to some of your rationale behind your decisions, it really does sound like you want to do better and you want to make better decisions, but you're really still learning how to hold back that violent side, that anger that you have. And that's not to negate the work that you have done, sir. I really do think that you are on the right path. I just think that there is more work to do. I don't think that you have fully proven to us here today that you're capable of being released and going out and making better decisions. That's what I'm saying. You have a sentence that will allow you to return to the community at some point. I saw your end of sentence date is to 2030. You know, I'm not saying that parole supervision wouldn't be beneficial to you. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying that you have not done enough work. For all the programs that you have taken, I would expect you to have come before us without having any tickets for at least 7 years. You know, we've seen people here today who've had 65-year sentences and they've had 4 tickets. You've had 16, 4 tickets in 40 years.
You absolutely right. And there's people who has 188 tickets and things of that nature too.
Right.
So
There are.
But
And
every
for those
time,
people with 100 tickets and 88 tickets, I'd be saying the same thing to them.
yes, ma'am, respectfully. Every time I put myself in a bad situation, I always try to rectify my behavior.
Yeah.
Even last time when I got denied the commutation, I didn't. That situation with that CO, it shouldn't have happened. It messed me up. I never had a problem with staff. You don't do as many programs as I've done or work as long as I work in DOC having a nasty disposition with COs. You don't complete programs having a nasty disposition with the volunteers that come in here. So just my body of just doing my programming and stuff shows that I'm capable of working and conducting myself and dealing with the people that come in here to help me.
I think that that's true, Mr. Sullivan. I do think that you're capable, but I'm saying to you again, when you're down to the wire and you're forced to make those decisions, you still revert back to some of that old behavior. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know that it's you've been receptive to the programs and even, you know, gained some tools, and I read about the coping skills that you've gained and the breathing techniques and listening to music. All those things are positive. I just wish that had you not received that 2022 ticket, I think that our discussion here would be a little different. But the fact is that the 16 overall, and the 7 of them being of violence, it really does not, it's not a good look, I'll say.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really, I listened to Mr. Sullivan's presentation, and I've heard the questions from Board Member Barry. And what I'm grappling with, and I'm just trying to find I don't think there's any other questions that I can ask for clarification, but through supervision in the community is important. But what I'm trying to get to today is that 23-169 asked me to be convinced that the likelihood of remaining at liberty without violating the law is, I'm struggling with that.
Right.
I'm struggling with that because of the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how else to get there.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah.
I just, there's a lot of positive work that Mr. Sullivan's done.
Yeah.
Just, and a lot of letters submitted.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a, yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't know if maybe the chair has something, questions that would help me to understand this a little better.
I mean, I share the same concerns. There's clearly some anger that needs to be addressed, because when you have good relationships with the staff in the facility, you don't speak to them the way he did in the last threatening ticket. In the new assault charge that you picked up, what happened to Ronnie? What happened to him?
As far as where he's at today.
No, I know where he is today. What happened to him in that incident? Because he was in the hospital for 4 days, so something happened.
Yes, he was in the hospital for 4 days because I injured him.
What'd you do?
Fought him with my bare hands. He came into my room with a knife and stabbed me. He stabbed
So
me.
why is it that he didn't get any outside charges?
Because he went to trial. He got charged, and they charged all of us with the incident.
Okay.
He got charged, my cellie got charged, and they charged me and they put me in Northern. Ronnie Hinton went to trial and beat the case during trial with DOC. Okay. I just copped out. I just took the year. I didn't want to take it because I was.
But anyhow, in any event, for someone to go to the hospital for 4 days implies some serious injuries. You get in a fist fight, you go to the emergency room, they bandage you up, and they send you home.
Ma'am, I was in a situation where I had to fight for my life. Right. This man.
You couldn't restrain him until the COs came?
No, I couldn't restrain him. He came in my cell with a knife and swung it on me. I got a 4-inch stab wound right here on my arm. He stabbed me on my bicep, and I had a stab wound in my face. I was literally fighting for my life.
And what was your cellie doing all that time?
My cellie came to the cell and ran in there and helped me because he already had me stabbing me up, and we fought him off us outside of our cell. And then the COs came and separated us. But even up into that.
What?
This report says he was airlifted to the hospital.
No, I know. He spent 4 days at the hospital, yeah. And I mean, 2 against 1, you guys couldn't hold him down?
No, he was sweet. Okay. My son got stabbed too. Wow. He stabbed both of us in our cell. We didn't have a weapon.
Okay. All right. Okay, but I mean, so we'll put that one aside because that was quite some time ago, even if it was a horrible fight and assault. That was some time ago, but the behaviors have continued. And what's interesting is you've done a lot of good things between all these fights. So I'm not sure, you have taken a lot of good programs. Although I will say that many of the more important programs came this year when you knew you were coming before us for this hearing.
No,
so if that's motivation to do good things, then that's great. I encourage that, of course, but go ahead.
May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know I was coming. I had this hearing.
Yeah, you did.
At first. Yeah, but excuse me, can I just.
I have the letter that we sent you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I understand. I got denied commutation and sentence modification. After I got denied commutation and sentence modification, I already was in the process talking to the counselors, trying to get into this program. The Tier 4 program, it was already a waiting list, so I had to wait. I got the paper about this hearing after I already got denied commutation and sentence modification.
Right.
I was already denied, and I was already transitioning to getting into these programs. And then I got this letter. I didn't have no knowledge that this was going to happen until I got the letter.
Yeah.
But I was already in process of taking these programs and doing these programs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, it is unfortunate that while you're taking these programs, though, you're picking up these tickets. We, as my colleague stated, we would have to be absolutely certain that you are not a risk to the community for us to parole you. Do you understand? Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And with this type of behavior, how could I be certain? If we paroled you, you went out there and you hurt somebody, even in a fight, you send somebody to the hospital. How does that make us look?
Right.
It's a dilemma. It really is. And I hope that this doesn't set you back and that you can continue to work on yourself. You do have 5 years to go. You're not earning any rec time, so you're there till 2030. But for me, I would need to see more, sir. I hope you understand that. You know, I don't want to take away from the good things that you've done, because you have done some good things. But there's a lot of violence in your disciplinary report history. Why did your CNA certification expire? You couldn't keep doing the work?
You gotta work within 2 years of your license. And I was working in other facilities, but once I got to the different unit facilities, I wanted to do other things. So I started doing other programming and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. And you do have certificates for drug and alcohol treatment specialist and business management?
Yes, ma'am.
That's great. I hope those things are valuable for you when you're back out in the community. All right. I think, are we done with our questioning?
I am, thank you.
Thank you. We do have victim input. I apologize. It's been a long day, Officer Management. At this time, we're going to turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services. I'll just ask Mr. Sullivan that you listen, but please don't interrupt at all. And they're going to address us at this time. So let's see. We have Ms. DeJesus. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, board members. I do have Mr. Benton's family members via Teams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
This is your opportunity to express to the board your wishes and your concerns. I am to remind you that you are to address the panel members only, and you may begin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Benton. I'm Joseph's older sister. I sat here and I listened to everything that you know, he had to say, and I listened to everything you guys have to say, and I appreciate you guys. This was a lot. My brother was 21 when he got murdered. A lot of stuff wasn't being truthful. Wasn't told that scenario where my brother was murdered. My brother was on his way to school. He signed up for CNA school. He had his uniform on and everything. So he's on his way to school. And the story about, oh, we just bumped into each other, that's not true. He ran around, he came to the corner with the gun out. So my brother started like trying to save his own life because he had a gun out. And that's when my brother got shot in the chest. It wasn't no gun in the waist. That's not the truth. He came there for a reason. This happened, started a little while ago. My brother used to call me and tell me about this guy that used to bother him all the time. He used to bother my brother because my brother was like a big ladies man. Like a lot of girls like my brother. My brother was so nice, so cool. He had no beef or nothing with nobody. My brother never even had a fight. He'll call me. I lived in Maryland at the time. He'll call me. He'll go, Toya, this guy, you know, he keeps bothering me, da-da-da-da. So when I came down to visit one time, I confronted Mr. Sullivan. I walked up to him and I told him, you better leave my brother alone. My brother doesn't bother anybody. That's my baby brother. And I look at him as like my kid, because when I was younger, I took my brothers and sisters in, right? Mm-hmm. When my mother, you know, she was on drugs and stuff, I took my brother and sister in. So I look at him as my son. I said, you better leave him alone. And he's like, get off my face. He told me to get out his face or whatever. So he's been doing stuff to my brother. This is not just one time thing. He's been, and even when Mr. Sullivan got sentenced, he stood up in court and said he don't know why he killed my brother. That's what he had to say to us, because he had no reason to kill my brother. My brother did nothing to him at all. Mm-hmm. It was an envy situation. That's why he killed my brother. He walked up to my brother with a gun. He did not. There's no bump into nobody. That's not what happened. My brother was so skinny. I mean, Lord, because he was a vegetarian. He was skinny, so he couldn't take that bullet to the chest. And it was a big bullet or whatever. But my brother, when I tell y'all, he wouldn't even cuss in front of me. And I'm only his older sister. He didn't do nothing to nobody. That's what kind of heart he had. He wasn't that type of person. No, but he didn't like what my brother brought. You know what I'm saying? So it was an envy thing. And he knows that. So I know for me, I don't think I don't think he has changed. I still think he needs to grow. He's in jail, getting in trouble. He's a blood. He is in a gang. He's a blood. He's in the gang. I have family members. Yes. I have family members that's in a family member that was there and was telling me all the tickets he was getting. You know, I just feel like if you killed someone and you was 18, he was 21, he didn't get to have kids. He killed him on my daughter's birthday. She just turned 13. She's right here. So we got a call on her birthday that her uncle was just murdered. So every time it's time to celebrate her birthday, we got to think about my brother because that's the day he got murdered. For no reason. Nothing at all.
Nobody.
But like, I just don't feel like he's doing what he needs to do as far as the anger part or just doing what he has to do. You're in jail, you're getting tickets, it ain't stopping. Like, when are you going to stop with your behavior? You took somebody's life for no reason.
Amen.
And we have to live with this every day. Like, knowing, like, people get murdered, right? Things happen in life, but my brother didn't do nothing to him, like, at all. Not one thing. Not one thing. And you just took his life and you just don't even know why. You just did it. It makes no sense.
Crazy.
That's like, people sometimes kill people because they did something to him. He did nothing to you, not one thing. So I definitely do not want him to come home. I have my mother's here. My mother is here and my daughter is here and my family. Is there anything else I'm supposed to say? Because this is overwhelming for us. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's been 21 years that my brother's been gone. He didn't get to have kids. This is what we got.
All
This
I
is what we
got.
got is obituary. This is my mother got.
That's all I got. My stuff.
That's it. So, and you get to eat, you get to watch TV, you can do everything you want. And eventually, we can't keep you there forever. You gonna come home, right? And you can start a family. My brother didn't get to have kids. I remember my brother turned 21 years old.
Going to nursing school.
Yes, he was going to nursing school. One of my friends I grew up with, a childhood friend, took him to New York on his 21st birthday. He was only 21 for like 13 days. He called me in Maryland. He said, Toy, I went to New York. He was so excited. He went to New York. They brought him. He had a good time, whatever. Like, you took that, like you took that away. Like, he didn't even get to have kids or anything.
Like, it wasn't nothing.
For nothing. Not even for a reason. For nothing.
High up.
And also I would like to add, I understand I understand about his situation and what's not, but listening to everything you're saying is, because I'm like an empath, I understand, I get it, but at the end of the day, like, you took my uncle on my birthday, like, you don't understand how hurt I am, like, every day, like, ever since I turned 13, I could remember that day briefly, like literally briefly, 13 years old, my mom coming to get me from school. Every year after that, I never want to celebrate my birthday. To ask my family, I never want to celebrate it. It's never the same. Like, you gave me a gift from my uncle. Like, I don't know. But I also want to say, I hope that you really get help because it don't seem like you change. I try to be empathetic with you because I try to see if you change, that you didn't. I want you to go I don't know if the incarceration have therapy, but you need to get therapy and realize what is causing you to be so angry.
Amen.
Because my uncle, I can understand that you grew up, your parents was on drugs, but my uncle,
I was on drugs.
My grandmother was on drugs. Yes. Literally, they didn't have no one but my mom. My uncle still choose to be the light. Like, he's been happy ever since. Even my other brother and my mom's other brother and aunt, they're nothing like that. They don't choose to go harm people.
Nope.
It's a choice, kind of. It's what you want to do with your life. Like, you gotta think about that.
You gotta get the income.
And change. Like, you really have to change. If you want to come into the society, you really have to change because the world's changed now.
I'm telling you, it's crazier.
Mom, you want to say something or no?
Yes.
This is my mom. I'm sorry.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm JoJo's mother, and I just miss him so much. But young man, I don't think he should get
really addressed to me and just talk to the board, Mom.
I'm the board to the board. I don't think he really is sorry what he did for my son.
I really don't. But this fresh, I see it in his face that he did. How you gonna kill somebody for nothing and then don't tell us the court that you don't know why you killed him? So he got a problem. He needs a therapy, a psychiatrist, and a therapy. And he don't need to get out until his time is up. Thank you very much.
I just want to say one thing too. What I didn't like is when I'm glad you guys was asking him a lot of questions, but I didn't like the lies. Because if you can't face what you did and you have to lie, because that story, you have to lie about certain stories, that means you didn't change. You're still trying to get around certain things. Just face it. You did it. You don't know why you don't have a reason. You did it. It's wrong. You took someone
for nothing
at age 21 that had a whole life ahead of him that never hurt nobody a day in his life.
Grandkids. Never seen.
And like I said, you can, I don't know if you guys could find out, but you're in there and you're hanging around a lot of gang members, and I heard you are one. So that's not good. What's changing?
Nothing.
Oh, thank you for hearing us.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, each of the attorneys will be afforded the opportunity to make a statement. We'll begin with State's Attorney Marcella. If you have any comments or statements you'd like to make, you may do so now.
Yes, thank you very much. Once again, Jonathan Formicella from the Office of the State's Attorney Judicial District of Bridgeport. As I sometimes always say during these hearings, because often, most times the state gets the opportunity to speak after the victims do, nothing can change how they feel and the sense of loss that they have and what happened to their loved one. We heard from Mr. Benton's mother, sister, and niece today, and the tragedy that they have to relive every day of their lives, but that a birthday was taken from his niece and their family that they no longer celebrate because of a horrible action of Mr. Sullivan when he was 18 years old. Nothing can take away the pain that they suffer every day. We can only hope that through prayer and through living their lives, that maybe hurts a little bit less each day. I don't want to discount what Mr. Sullivan has done during his period of incarceration. He should be commended for the programming that he's completed and the additional programming that he's completed of his own choice. That he obtained his GED, that he did work in the CNA program during his period of incarceration, and he seems to have a good understanding of the challenges related to substance abuse and how he was living his life as a young man, and has taken programs while he's been incarcerated to address the root causes of his substance abuse. And from what I was reading in the DIS that we were provided with, that he does have a good plan if he were to be released, and he will be released at some point, even if he serves the entirety of his sentence. And he should be commended for coming to that realization. But even given that, the Office of the State's Attorney would object to early release for Mr. Sullivan at this time, and that's for a few reasons. As was discussed at length, Mr. Sullivan had 16 tickets during his most recent period of incarceration. And as stated before, I counted 7, if not 8 tickets that were violent in nature, including in August of 2022, threats to a Department of Corrections officer. Additionally, in September of 2021, an assault, and in July of 2020, ticket for fighting. And those are the most recent tickets for Mr. Sullivan. I will just point out to the board Mr. Sullivan's ages at this time, because as part of a 23-169 hearing, the board is supposed to take in consideration the age of the offender at the time of the offense and that's impact. Well, Mr. Sullivan was a much older man when these most recent tickets occurred. And functionally, he has developed and received training through program use. He was 35, 36, and 37 years old when those last tickets occurred. He wasn't an 18-year-old boy that was lost in his youth. And he was 26 years old at the time of the assault in 2011. And so what I find concerning about those specific 4 incidences, and again, there are additional issues with the tickets that were violent in nature, is that Mr. Sullivan had engaged in programming to stop that behavior and find out ways around that, and not entering into a cycle of assaultive and threatening behavior that would cause him to be a danger to the community upon his release. And it seemed as though he didn't get that training, meaning it didn't resonate with him during that period of time. And that was concerning to me. What I will say, though, again, giving Mr. Sullivan credit, is he seems to have refocused himself from that dark period of, I believe he said, from 2020 to 2022. But in the Office of the State's Attorney's opinion, as it hasn't been a significant period of time between 2022 and today. We're just approaching 2025, but we're only a couple days into 2025. So I would say that those tickets that were violent in nature, his age at the time of those tickets would not make Mr. Sullivan suitable for early release at this time, and does not evidence significant change. And so we would ask that the board deny early release at this time. Thank you.
Chairwoman Zaccanini, I apologize. I didn't realize that there is also a sister that didn't get to speak. I apologize for that.
Okay.
Just made aware of it.
Thank
She
you.
is on the line. Ms. Benson, if you can hit *6, and you may address the board. I just need to remind you that you are to address the board members only.
Okay, I just want to say, I'm the sister that I'm Monique Denton. My name is DC Monique Denton. I'm the sister that it all happened at her house. Yes, she can hear me, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, they can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Jamar. Okay. He's not ready to come out, okay? And it didn't happen no way that he said it, okay? He was sent back around the corner to rob my brother that morning.
That's right.
Robert told him to go get JoJo. He's around the corner. Go get what you owe me. He robbed Robert the night before, and he stole the gun from Stratford, from Lidak house. Nobody gave him the gun. He stole the gun. They was looking for him and a pair of sneakers. And he left that morning from stealing that from them, and that's how he got the gun. And he break it out to that morning. And Robert told him, JoJo was up top. You better go get my money. He know I know the story, and I think God meant for me to be here because I almost died back in June. And I think he meant for me to be here to tell the story. And my brother gave him somewhere to stay. That's how you was in my house. You wasn't just chilling with my brother. You forgot that he slept in my house, and you wear his jeans when you went upstairs to take a shower, and you robbed him. That's what you did. You robbed him. And then when you seen it was Tiffany Brown, you got real jealous because that was your girlfriend. And you told him you was going to kill him. I was right there on the porch. Did you forget? I'm here. I'm right here. The witness. And he did not deserve to do that. I can see the way he lifted the ear just now, how long it took me to get out of the phone, rolling his eyes. He knew I was coming to say something. He is not ready, I'm telling you guys. You should have heard him at the sentence. He told the judge, I will rock on. I had to ask somebody what do that mean. I will rock on? He said, I will live on. He's just giving me something to do, to learn, to read books, to learn, time to learn. That's what you said, you remember? Yeah, you laughing now. You laughing. I see I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
I need to remind you that you're to address
You can't
the
do
board
that,
members.
Monique. You can't talk to him. Do you not understand that part?
Okay, fine. He's not ready. He's smirking. That is so disrespectful. Just like he did at the hearing.
He did that. He did that at the hearing. He was smirking, laughing.
Smirking. The same smirk. That was just the same smirk.
Just took my son knife. It's funny.
All right, you finished, Monique, or no?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
I can't deal with her.
But she told the truth.
Okay.
Thank you. At this time, we will give Attorney Hom an opportunity to make some final remarks.
Good afternoon. This has obviously been a difficult hearing. I will say, I'm sitting here next to Mr. Sullivan. This is an extremely kind, empathetic individual who's committed to changing himself and also committed to helping other people. I want to say, I think Mr. Sullivan did it very earnestly and honestly himself. We want to obviously express our remorse to the victim's family. There is not a day that goes by that Mr. Sullivan doesn't regret the actions of that day. There's not a day that he doesn't think about it and try to come to terms with it and make amends. This is an individual that from the very beginning has taken personal accountability for what he did and has personalized that and attempted to transform his life. We obviously, as Mr. Formicelli indicated, we cannot bring Mr. Benton back. And Mr. Sullivan has attempted to do everything that he possibly could to make himself a better person. Yes, he has had missteps. He has had his share of missteps over the last 20 years. He has had 16 tickets. There was a significant incident where he fought for his life in 2011, and the individual that attacked him had his charges resolved. Mr. Benton took responsibility for his actions. Mr. Sullivan took responsibility for his actions at that time, as he has done with all of his tickets. He's had extended, and he started programming as soon as he possibly was able. When he entered DOC, he immediately pursued his GED. Shortly thereafter, he was encouraged and introduced into getting his nurse's aid certificate. He was a nurse's aide for several years at Corrigan, where he received extensive accolades, and he was responsible for saving an individual's life on the mental health ward. This is an individual who has engaged in just about every single program that DOC has had to offer. And as he shared and stated himself, you can't do that unless you have the support of staff. Yes, he has had some dark times. He has sometimes wondered about his own self-worth, and he is a very emotional person, which can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. But what has he done in the face of each misstep? He's tried to address that misstep. He's taken responsibility for it, tried to address it in a healthy way, and he's attempted to engage in more programming to improve himself. I think the most recent incident that occurred in 2022, he was in a heightened emotional state. And, as he shared with Dr. Meisler, and as he shared with you all, what he did immediately after that incident was try to get into more programs to process through what happened so that it wouldn't happen again. This is not an individual who attempts to walk away from something and blame other people. This is somebody who stands up for what he has done and attempts to correct it. And he also has an extensive support network with his family, as well as other individuals in the community who have experienced past incarceration experience. This is somebody who has a plan to come back into the community, and given the opportunity to come back into the community through juvenile parole, as opposed to just, returning to the community without supervision, through this vehicle, he would have the opportunity to be supervised by parole, potentially get support from a halfway house, and also lean into the other protective factors that he has, including, extensive family and support network. Honestly, I see Mr. Sullivan as an excellent candidate for juvenile parole. Yes, he is my client, and that I am supposed to advocate for him. But this is an individual who was the product of his society and had a gun, as many young individuals in his community did at that point in time, and had an unfortunate and horrific crime occur as a result. But this is an individual who was barely 18 at the time that this crime happened, immediately took accountability for it, and has been doing what he can over the last 20 years. And yes, 16 tickets is a lot, but he's had extensive periods of time without any tickets. And has he had a ticket since 2022? Has he had a ticket since being denied the pre-screen? Has he had a ticket since being denied the sentence mod? No. Has he continued to engage in programming? He's gone back. He's become a facilitator. He has become a mentor to other individuals. This is an individual who deserves a chance to return to society and be given the opportunity to live in the community under the benefit of parole. And it would be beneficial to him to have that happen sooner rather than later, because yes, Ms. Berry, as you indicated, right, life is never perfect. Things, you're going to always have challenges, and he deserves the opportunity to be able to do that in society, in the community, with the support of parole, with the support of other family members, and have the opportunity to truly grow in the community. So we would ask the board to consider Mr. Sullivan for juvenile parole.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, the panel will enter into deliberation. We ask everyone is free to watch. Please don't interrupt us, and we'll come back with our decision shortly. Okay, Ms. Berry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I stated, and I appreciate the remarks from the victim's family, the state's attorney, and Attorney Hall. There's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Sullivan really does want to do better. He wants to be a better person. And I really do believe that he's remorseful for his actions. I can even understand his difficult upbringing and all the adversities that he was faced with as a child. I understand the difficulty to navigate that life at a very young age. However, given the amount of time that he's been in the facility and his behaviors that he's displayed over the years have been I'm not going to say consistently increasing, but there is some consistency in the way that he resolves conflict over the years through the fighting and assaults. That same anger that caused him to be that person that he was out in the community, it appears to still be present here today, which is what is concerning to us. There's no doubt in my mind that he's learned some things through the programs, that he wasn't just warming up a seat. That none of that stuff is what I am thinking. I'm really thinking that it's now time for him to show us that he's learned, that he can apply what he's learned to real life. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, to date, he has not been able to do that consistently. Mm-hmm. While I do believe that he would benefit from some parole supervision because he is serving a flat sentence and he has been down for a very long time, I just am not prepared to support that discretionary parole right now. I would challenge Mr. Sullivan to continue working on himself and prove
to us that he is capable of staying out of trouble. While
We have some conflict going on the screen.
I see,
Good.
I see,
Between the
I see.
applicant and the victim's family. So we should, yeah, let's move along.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Paul?
So thank you, Madam Chair. As I stated earlier, there's a couple of things that I'm asked to do here.
Yeah.
One is to get to a place where I believe that Mr. Sullivan will remain at liberty without violating law. I'm not there yet because of disciplinary hearing and, disciplinary record.
Mhm.
And some of the decisions that he's making. And, that's, I need to be assured of that, pretty well assured of that. And I'm not sure that he's done everything he can do inside.
Okay.
I absolutely, well, I don't want to say there's not an absolute here. I want to vote for parole for Mr. Sullivan in the best interest of public safety. Because I don't think he should walk out of prison and not have a parole officer for a period of time. I can't do that today.
Right.
I want to be able to give him the support to transition back into the community. Again, it's a public safety concern for me. And as well, the state's attorney, I really appreciate him pointing out the positive things
Right.
that Mr. Sullivan
Yeah.
has done,
He has
in trying to engage in rehabilitation, positive steps that he's taking. So, with that said, I would like to bring him back.
Okay.
I'm open to a discussion of when that occurs.
Okay. I have a question. What's the relationship of the gentleman who keeps appearing on the screen?
Right. Right. No, it's not fun. You don't laugh.
Let me talk.
No. Do you want him to talk?
I just want to know what the relationship is because we know everybody who's appeared.
One
second. That's my son.
I'm her son.
Okay.
That's the sister's son.
I just know the individual. That's all. I was incarcerated with him. He know me. I know him. That's all.
Got it. All right. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's not a good sign when you're reacting to Mr. Sullivan. Why react? You should be learning the tools not to react.
Right.
I'm not reacting.
You did. Whether you recognize it or not, we can see everything that happens on the screen.
Right. Stop.
If someone provokes you, no, mute yourself, please.
I'll get off.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
This is tough.
It is.
So I would agree that we certainly do try to provide supervision and support for anyone who has served a long sentence and is now coming out. I would suggest a 3-year rear.
Yes.
I would support that.
Okay. All right. Reasons for denial, obviously, poor institutional adjustment, injury impacts the victim. We okay with that? All right. 3 years gets us to January 28. All right, the matter of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Before we do that, I don't want to say what we're struggling with here is evidence of offender change. So
It is a struggle because in some areas there is change, but then in
right.
very important areas there's not. So yeah, we can add that.
I mean, that's
It's not enough. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I'm struggling.
All right, thank you. In the matter of Jamar Sullivan, amendment number 296869, I'll move to deny parole at this time and rehear the case in January of 2028. The denial is for 3 years. Reasons for denial: poor institutional adjustment, as evidenced by the disciplinary reports, injury and impact to the victim and the victim's family, and inadequate evidence of offender change. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, well, we're going to give you another shot at this, Mr. Sullivan. We just need to see you do a little more. Please. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Includes a public act.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He didn't change. He's showing y'all the real him. He didn't change.
Woo! Oh my gosh, with the mic drop at the end, and his attorney sitting there just looking dumbfounded. You know, this is the best strategy that you could come up with when you want to have these. You know, I'm surprised we have never seen something like this before, but apparently, and we can't see it, but they're on the other end of the screen. Even the person who had served time with him, and you could tell there's something going on, and they found a way to get under his skin. They got under his skin, and he lost it, and he couldn't withhold himself. He couldn't control himself, and there you could tell they're, and that if that's all you needed to know, that he shouldn't get released. And I think, you know, we might always have said, look, people can go through rehabilitation, you go through the parole, but remember, they're on their best behavior at these hearings. And just a little bit with everything on the line, he still couldn't control himself. Imagine what it'd be like when he's out in the streets with others agitating him, looking clearly to get revenge. There's bad blood, and you know the I forget who it was. I like the interaction. It was so natural. Ooh, how do I even unpack this? It was like a mixture of emotions. For one thing, with the parole hearing, he goes this long, boring, drawn out opening statement where he's talking 1 mile an hour. And I wonder now how many soups he paid to the jailhouse lawyer to write that opening statement. And then he has this ridiculous story about how the gun fell out of his. I mean, come on. Like, as the ADA said, like, just stop it with this story. And the family so clearly said it was like very profound, very real. She's like, you know, you can't. It was another mic drop. You can't actually apologize for something that you're not taking responsibility for. And that's what we always say here. That's what we say. That's what they say. And that's something that the Connecticut Board of Paroles does not seem to even understand. But even in this case, Mike Pohl didn't grant. Have we ever seen Mike Pohl himself not grant? I just can't believe, you know, that, wow, you know, it's got to be bad, and Mike Pohl is gonna deny. And I thought there at the end that he was gonna almost talk himself into a grant. But when all this is going on, this guy, he storms up. He even says, "Let's go!" Like he really can't control himself. It's, dude, buddy, do you realize it's in your best interest to control yourself? You let them get under your skin. You just. I loved it. Ooh, I loved it. That's the way it should be. That's the victims, the survivors. At least they got one last good one on there, you know, for their loved ones. We are so accustomed. Just on today's docket, there were like another 5 hearings, and the victims are in the hearings crying and saying, please don't let them out. Just give us a little more time. And the board, they didn't care at all. You know, it is interesting when it comes to write-ups, but I will tell you, and thank you, Sir Richard, for the information. The incident that happened where he like did get a felony for that stabbing situation. There's a news article on it, and I was reading it as they're going on, and it actually seemed like he totally wasn't at fault for that knife case. Like, he really was fighting for his life. And that what was interesting is that his attorney really, in the bottom line, I think when said and done, didn't really do much for him, because, and I'm guessing his attorney doesn't really know much about him or much about the case. And you can kind of get the end, but because as an attorney, I would have come out and said, no, the case with the stabbing, like, he actually wasn't at fault there. And it says she's leaping, and I'm guessing she has no idea about it. Let me read it to you. What happened? The guy who stabbed him was scary, dude. He killed 3 people with a sawed-off shotgun, had multiple legitimate life sentences, and he went into their cell with a knife and stabbed him up. I don't know how he got in trouble for it. I think he might have gotten in trouble for it because he was brought on the stand to testify against the guy who stabbed him up, and he pled the 5th. And my guess is maybe the DAs are pissed off at him and charged him up. I don't know. Let me read it to you. So July 25th, the day McClathy tribute, blah, blah, blah. Ronnie A. Is serving a life in prison without possibility of parole, and Norwich jurors who will decide if he is guilty of assaulting 2 inmates at the correctional center last year won't know he killed 3 people. I don't know what that is. What are these? What? Last year won't know he killed 3. Oh, the jury won't know he killed 3 people with a sawed-off shotgun when he was 17 years old. And watch, this guy's gonna definitely get a chance of parole because he was 17. He will. We've seen people I saw someone today get off on this docket alone, killed 2 people. And he got off. And he was 18. So why wouldn't they let a 17-year-old out for killing 3, you know? You know they will. You know he'll get a chance. We'll see in 20 years or something. The jury panel of 7 women and 1 man. Hinton is a pleasant-looking man, 39, in black polo shirt, sitting quietly in the courtroom while his attorney, Matthew Berger, defends him. Judge Barbara Bailey, Jungleblood, is not allowing testimony about Hilton's criminal history because it would unduly prejudice the jury against him. She also is not allowing the jury to hear about the crimes of the other inmates. In other pretrial rulings, the judge denies the defense motion. Okay, we know that. As the trial got underway, Tuesday, prosecutor Juliana Waltersdorf called. Remember, this is about the knifing incident, what they were arguing about there at the beginning, how he had picked up a new charge or write-up. I don't know. Thursday, prosecutor Juliana Waltersdorf called on the correction officer Todd Samuel, who broke up the fight, to narrate a surveillance video of the incident. The jury learned that Hinton went into the cell of Jamar Sullivan and Eric Gooden after returning from the Chow Hall to the G-Pod housing unit on June 4, 2011. Hinton's cell was on the first tier of floor, while Sullivan and Gooden's were housed upstairs. Minutes later, as correction officer from throughout the facility rushed towards the code blue or fight call, Hinton was lying on the ground outside the cell as its 2 occupants repeatedly punched and kicked him. By the time Samuel broke up the fight, Hinton was unconscious. He was taken to the William W. Backus Hospital and later airlifted to the University of Connecticut Health Center. Airlifted. Can you imagine the cost that this guy is putting on him? Here he is in prison. He killed 3 people. He locked up. Samuel broke up him. Hinton was unconscious. And he was taken to and this guy's flown, and now he has a jury trial. The video was not clear, but Samuel, who had watched the surveillance video at the prison where he was able to zoom in on the action, testified that Sullivan could be seen dropping a shank, a sharp weapon fashioned from a toothbrush, over the railing. An inmate on the first floor can be seen picking up the shank and throwing it into the garbage. Sullivan and Gooden were treated at the prison for puncture wounds and lacerations, and eventually state police arrested the 3 men. So yeah, he was stabbed and he was shanked in his cell. Though Sullivan was last seen with the shank, the state contends that Hinton took it into the cell and initiated the fight, which centered on the accusation that he was batting for the other team, so to speak. Sullivan, who was serving a 28-year sentence for the first-degree manslaughter with a firearm, pleaded guilty and received 1 year in prison concurrent with his existing sentence. So isn't this interesting? He did pick up a felony while locked up, as they were saying, but he needed his attorney. Maybe I missed it. Maybe the attorney said something. I watched these hearings and I missed things. So on Tuesday, but I don't remember her mentioning anything. On Tuesday, he briefly took the witness stand at Hinton's trial to plead the 5th Amendment and to be excused. And I understand with prison politics why you would do that. And it's just, why did he get a charge? Isn't that interesting? Sullivan acknowledged Hinton with a nod and under the breath pleasantry with a nod and under the breath pleasantry as a correction officer led him back to the courthouse lockup. Gooden, whose case is pending, also refused to testify. Gooden is serving a 10-year sentence for burglary. Imagine serving a 10-year sentence for burglary and then getting involved in this. And we all know that a 10-year sentence for burglary, probably he pled down from a home invasion, but also he would never have spent 10 years in prison. He would have gotten paroled if he just behaved. Trooper Darwin Garnett, who was called from the Montville barracks to investigate the two inmate on inmate assault, was testifying when the trial broke for the day. Garnett will resume the witness stand today with a jongle, but is expected to rule on whether the prosecution can introduce through the truth. How many complex names do they need to have at one hearing? Through Hinton is sentenced to life without the possibility released on the Department of Corrections website as 999 years, 99 months, and 999 days. This is for killing 3 people with a shotgun. I will predict today that if he just does somewhat well incarcerated, we will see him up on whatever the next streaming service is. If it's not YouTube, we'll see him in 20 years talking about how he's changed. He is one of the 5 Connecticut inmates who could be resentenced under a recent Supreme Court ruling that struck down mandatory sentences to life without the possibility of relief for juveniles. We called it. It's not even going to be in 20 years. We'll see him in 5. And we will. New legislation is passed. This was written in 2012. What am I even saying? I don't know why this is new to us. The legislation is passed. He was under 18. We probably will see him one day. If he does better, I guess if you keep getting write-ups, you won't. I don't know. He might still be required by law to have a chance at a hearing. Then there was another document about another type of offense, but we don't have the actual information for his initial crime. We don't have an appeal for that. So there you have that. Anyways, I did get lost on this. The hearing, I think it kind of reaffirmed a lot of what we need to know, which is how can you really judge a hearing by how someone behaves? We expect them to be on their best behavior. But so often we see these hearings where they lie through their teeth about what happened, like happened in this case. And that should be the first red flag. That should be the first indicator of not releasing. But the parole board, they often don't care about that. They just don't. And imagine really things might have been able, if he had maybe fewer write-ups, I don't know. But maybe the write-ups are an indication of if someone's ready to get out or not. I just feel like I'm digressing all over the place. He will be back in 3 years. And let's see if he, his maximum sentence is 7/28/2030. So his maximum, he can only be in for another 5 years. He was sentenced 28 years on June 30th, 2024. So let's see how he handles things now. But you get no good feeling that he's going to get released, that he'll be able to not pick up some new charges or something. And anyways, with that, I'll let you go.
Never seen.
And like I said, you can, I don't know if you guys could find out, but you're in there and you're hanging around a lot of gang members, and I heard you are one. So that's not good.
Mm-mm.
What's changing?
Nothing.